Your handout guidance for the interview process. Please repeat after me. Tell about the rising. How noted and what known. Tell about the fallen. How noted and what known. Report all thinkings planning. How noted and what known. Report all feelings. How noted and what known. Report all dhammas that arise. How noted and what known. Object noting what is known. These 3 points are key. Include these 3 precisely, clearly. For each object seen. Don't add fluff, just see the first short and to the point. We breathe no extra, just the essence. In rebodiing, use time carefully. Let us recite again all together. Tell about the rising, how noted and one know. Tell about the fallen, how noted and one know. Rewarding all thinking planning, how noted and one know. Reward all feelings, how noted and one know. Reward all dhammas that arise, how noted and one know. Object noting what is known. These 3 points are key. Includes these 3 precisely, clearly, for each object seen. Don't add fluff, just see the first short and to the point. We breathe no extras, just the essence. Everybody use time carefully. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. We will continue the talk on the 5 aggregates. We do not need to look in books to find the 5 aggregates. They can be found in our own experience. In the experience of seeing, we can find all 5 aggregates. They all are also present in the experience of hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. There are many touch sensations in the body, and they can be detected by paying close attention to what is happening at the present moment. Here, a touch includes the feeling of heat, and when we feel cold, that too is a touch. When we are aware of the rising and falling movement of the abdomen, those movements are touches. And if pressure is felt there, that also is a touch in touching something. the 5 aggregates can be experienced in that touch. You already know that earth, air, fire, and water are the 4 great elements forming the basis of all matter. Now, just by watching what is happening at the present moment, we can develop insight and penetration into the nature of things. For instance, making a bodily movement begins with the mind's desire to move. We want to move, so there is desire or intention to move. Many properties of the air or one element material are produced by this intention to move. When there is the desire to move, the mind produces new particles of the air element that outnumber the old particles, which disappear. This increase of the air element is what we call a movement. According to the strict teaching of Abhidhamma, there is nothing that moves. For example, I move my hand, that's all. There is nothing that moves. What seems to be moving is only the increase of the material properties. The particles of air element caused by desire to move. Every movement, though it seems to be a movement, is not a movement at all according to Abhidhamma. I think it can be proved. How? When you go to a movie, you think that the pictures on the screen are moving, but you know that there are no moving pictures. They are all still pictures projected one after another in sequence. When we see the screen, the illusion is created in our mind that the pictures are moving. Actually, they are not moving. What is moving is our own imagination. We imagine all of these separate status images to be a flowing continuity, forming a whole. And then we think that the pictures are moving. Similarly, when you move your hand, it is not the hand that moves, but the increase of the material properties of the air element caused by the desire to move. This may be seen through the practice of Vipassana meditation when making notes of the rising and falling of the abdomen. You are actually noting the air element because its function is movement, which is included in the sense of touch, and the air element is included in the sense of touch. So when you are aware of the movements of the abdomen rising and falling, you are experiencing a kind of touch. In that experience also, you can find the 5 aggregates matter, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, and Pali. Actually, they can be found in every experience, and these 5 aggregates can be claimed to by way of strong craving or by way of wrong view. That is why they are called aggregates of clinging. Aggregates subject to clinging or aggregate subject of clinging. It is these aggregates of clinging that we have to watch and be mindful of in order to get free from suffering. Even when you are thinking of something, the 5 aggregates are present. When you are thinking, you are not seeing with your eyes or hearing with your ears. You are thinking with your mind. When you are thinking, you are seeing something in your mind or hearing something in your mind, and so on. Objects seen or heard in the mind are called past objects. But if they are visible objects or audible objects, they belong to the matter aggregate. Consciousness also must have a base from which to arise. If we do not have eyes, there will be no seeing consciousness. If we have no ears, there will be no hearing consciousness. And what about thinking? Thinking consciousness also needs a seat or base according to Abhidhamma. Its base is the heart, specifically the blood in the heart, Hariyavutu in Pali. With every experience, seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking, there are always the 5 aggregates. If we do not watch them, if we do not apply mindfulness to them, we will always cling to them, either by strong craving or by wrong view, and because they are objects that can be clung to, we usually cling to them if we are not mindful. In order not cling to them, it is clear that we must watch them. Why they are present, we cannot observe them when they are past, though we may be able to recall some past experience. It will never appear as vividly as it appeared during what was its present moment. So to avoid clinging to these 5 aggregates, we must watch them when they are evident, when they are present. Otherwise, we will always cling to them. When there is a clinging, it does not stop there. Just with our clinging, suppose we are attached to something and we want to possess it. Motivated by that desire, we were trying to possess it and will do something to acquire it. we may steal it, take it by force from somebody, or even commit murder just to get what we want. So, motivated by clinging, we take up actions. Sometimes what we cling to is unwholesome, and sometimes it may be wholesome, whether wholesome or unwholesome. Kusala and akusalat. Since they are karmas, they have the potential to give results in the future. And we will get the results of those actions in the future. When there is clinging, there is action. When there is action, there is the result of that action in the form of the rebirth in the future life. With the rebirth, there is aging, disease, death, and so on. So the duration of our samsara is prolonged if we are not vigilant, if we do not apply mindfulness to what we experience at the present moment. When seeing objects, see them just as objects that arise and disappear. Understand that they are impermanent, they are suffering, and they have no self or soul. Then you will not cling to them. When there is no clinging, there can be no action. When there is no action, there will be no reaction as a result. That is why it is important to apply mindfulness to whatever experience we are having at the present moment. It should now be clear that it is important not to cling to the 5 aggregates of clinging. In order to avoid clinging to them, we must watch them, make notes of them, and be mindful of them when they are present. This answers the questions, when are we to make notes of the 5 aggregates, and for what purpose do we have to make notes of them? The answers to when is the present moment. The answer to what purpose is not to cling to them. When making notes of the 5 aggregates, we must try to note them as and when they arise, while they are still existing. We speak frequently about the present moment. Actually, the present should be understood as a present duration, not an exact present moment. This is because when we are mindful of objects, most of the things we observe are no longer present in less time, perhaps, than the blanco and iron. They have already become the past. For example, when we are mindful of anger, when we are making notes of it, the anger is no longer there. It has disappeared because anger and mindfulness cannot coexist. Just the fact that your mind is engaged in Being mindful of anger means that the anger is not in your mind at the same moment. It is already in the past, but because it is so brief a moment of the past, we call it present. When saying be mindful of the present moment, however, when you are being mindful of the movements of the abdomen, there are times when you can actually see the result, present moment. This can happen when you are noting the rising and falling of the abdomen. If the noting and the movements coincide exactly, but this cannot happen when you are being mindful of your thoughts, because by the time you are mindful of them, they are already in the past. But in the context of vipassana, we regard them as being present when we say, be mindful of the present or be in the present moment. When practicing vipassana meditation, it is essential that you remember to be mindful of the object at the present moment. You must be mindful in order to avoid attachment to the 5 aggregates of clinging. You don't want to cling to them because clinging leads to action. Action leads to reaction, which is suffering. And you want to escape from suffering as much as possible. In order to avoid suffering, watch the present moment by just paying attention to the object of the present moment. You can get concentration, you can penetrate the nature of things, and can progress from one state to another until you reach enlightenment. Now, I would like to talk about the impermanence nature of the 5 aggregates and nature in Pali. According to the answers given by the Venerable Sariputta in the Silawanda Sutta, a bhikkhu who is virtuous or whose sila is pure should practice vipassana meditation to see the 5 aggregates of clinging as impermanent, as a suffering, as a disease, as non-self. Immediately following this sutta in the Sayutta Nikaya, there is a discourse called the Sutta Wanda Sutta. We can regard it as a sister sutta, as the text is the same as the Silawanda Sutta. The only difference being that the bhikkhu here is a Sutta Wanda, and instructed monk. The word Sutta means heart. In ancient times, writing material was not easily available, and it may have been customary in those days not to write down the teachings of the Buddha. So the teacher taught, and the students learned by listening to his thoughts. This is how the word sutta came to mean something a person has learned. And Sutta Wanda means one who possess knowledge through learning. One who is knowledgeable. In this discourse, Venerable Mahakotika asked Venerable Sariputta the same question as in the Sila Wanda Sutta. What are the things that an instructed bhikkhu should carefully attend to? And the answer is also the same. An instructed bhikkhu should carefully attend to the 5 aggregates of clinging as impermanent, as suffering, as disease, as non-self, so on. Silawada Udokotika Bhikkhuna, Pinchu Paranekanda, Nature do, Dukkha do, Roga do, Ganda do, Sala do, Abada do, etc. So these 2 suttas may be regarded as one. In order to see the 5 aggregates of clinging as impermanent, and so on, what do you need? You need concentration. Without concentration, you cannot hope to see the 5 aggregates of clinging as impermanent. And so on. Concentration is an important factor in the practice of meditation. Whether your practice is samatha meditation or vipassana meditation, you need to have this essential part of meditation practice. To gain concentration, what must you do? You must practice mindfulness. Without mindfulness, you cannot get concentration, because mindfulness means full awareness of the object. If there is no full awareness of the object, there can be no concentration in the mind. So to get concentration, it is necessary to practice mindfulness. In order to practice mindfulness, what do you need? You need to make effort. Without making effort, you cannot practice mindfulness. The 3 most essential things for the practice of meditation are concentration, mindfulness, and effort. First, you make effort to be mindful, and you become mindful. Then, with the support of effort and mindfulness, you get concentration. Once you gain concentration or stillness of mind, the mind is free from mental hindrances. Then you will begin to see the 5 aggregates of clinging as impermanent, as a suffering, as a disease, and so on. Of the 3 main steps in meditation, mindfulness is the most important, because it is required for all meditation. It can never be too strong. We need it to be strong. And the stronger it is, the better. But you need to be careful with the other 2 steps, effort and concentration. Effort can be too little or too much, and concentration can be too little or too much. If there is too little effort, we cannot practice mindfulness. And if there is too much effort, we also cannot practice mindfulness too much. We also cannot practice mindfulness. Too much effort leads to agitation and restlessness. It can come when a yogi is very eager to achieve something, very eager to reach enlightenment, very eager to get results. With such eagerness, the yogi tends to exert more effort than is needed. And when more effort than needed is made, the mind becomes disturbed, or it is trembles and is agitated. When mind is agitated, it cannot stay on the object. So too much effort is to be avoided when practicing meditation. Concentration can be too much also. When there is too much concentration, a yogi tends to lose or reduce effort. Then concentration regains the upper hand and the yogi's effort level falls again, leading him to become lazy or sleepy. Leading him to become lazy or sleepy. When there is a lack of effort, the necessary concentration for meditation suffers. This kind of cycle must be avoided if the practice of the meditation is to proceed smoothly. Effort and concentration need to be just enough for the purpose. They need to be balanced. How to balance them? You do not have to worry. Your teacher are aware of this problem. And if you follow their instructions, you will not have too much effort or too much concentration. When you are practicing meditation, you are instructed to be mindful of the rising and falling of the abdomen. But when another object becomes prominent at the present moment, you are to put mindfulness on that object until it disappears. Then you return to the breath, you return to the abdomen. So the basis practice is to be mindful of the abdomen, and whatever object might arise to disturb you, why two objects? Why not just one object? Or why not more than two objects? If you have to be mindful of more than two objects, it can arouse too much effort and cause agitation. And if you have only one object to attempt to, putting your mind totally on that one object is not recommended. Although you can get concentration, in this case, the concentration could become excessive. So in order for your effort not to be too much or too little, you are given two objects to keep your mindfulness strong, steady, intact, and without strain or agitation. Being mindful of just two objects helps you to balance effort and concentration. Two important factors in the practice of the meditation. They must always be balanced. They must always be just the right amount, not too much and not too little. In answering Venerable Margotika's first two questions, Venerable Sariputta had said that a virtuous bhikkhu and an instructed bhikkhu should attempt to the 5 aggregates subject to clinging as impermanent, as suffering, and so on. The reference to an instructed bhikkhu raised a question. How much knowledge does a person need before he can practice meditation? If you read the Visuddhimagga, you may get the notion that you have to know a lot before you are practicing Vipassana meditation. The Visuddhimagga is a book written in the 4th century AD by Venerable Buddhaghosa, a scholarly monk. As it was written for meditating monks, it was taken for granted that his readers would understand many of the teachings. But for those who are not initiated into the teachings of the Buddha, the book, which is divided into 3 parts, is not easy to read. The subject of the first division is how to purify one's sila. The second is on concentration, samadhi, and explains the 40 subject of samatha meditation. How to prepare for meditation, how to find a teacher, and other details of the samatha meditation. It also explains the abhanya, the 4 kinds of direct knowledge that a yogi gains after attaining the material and immaterial jhanas. The third division or understanding, panya, is actually about vipassana. Buddhaghosa began this division with the detailed information on the aggregates, base elements, faculties, dependent origination, and the 4 noble truths. Only after that did he describe the practice of vipassana meditation. So, reading the Visuddhimagga may give you the impression that before you can practice vipassana meditation, you have to be familiar with all the details of the aggregates and very familiar with the teachings of the dependent origination. Saka, the king saw the cause. Once asked the Buddha how much knowledge a monk must have in order to practice and reach Aranche. The Buddha answered, a bhikkhu has heart that all things are not fit to be adhered to. When a bhikkhu has heart that all things are not fit to be adhered to, he directly knows everything. This means that after hearing that all phenomena are unfit to be adhered to by craving or wrong view, he can practice meditation. So a bhikkhu needs to hear only this much, that all things are not to be taken as permanence, happiness, soul, or self. Sabbe Dhamma Nalang Abhiniveso in Pali. If he knows just this much, he can practice meditation according to this. A person does not have to know much about the teachings of the Buddha in order to practice meditation. The commentary adds a little more. It says that if one knows there are Four Noble Truths and that the first two truths belong to the rounds of the rebirth, and the other two leads to release from the rounds of rebirth. One may practice meditation only on the first two. If you know this much, you have enough knowledge to practice meditation. You already have heard about the Four Noble Truths. Two are mundane, and the other two are supramundane. When practicing vipassana, you deal only with the first two, which are mundane, the noble truth of the suffering and the noble truth of the origin of suffering. The third, the noble truth of the cessation of the suffering, is to be realized. And the fourth, the noble truth of the path to sensation, arises at the moment of enlightenment, and the results of the practice of vipassana meditation. If you know this much, you have enough knowledge to practice vipassana meditation. What about understanding dependent origination? It has been explained in great detail in the Visuddhimagga. In this case, the sub-commentary is helpful. It says that if you know that there is a cause and that there are results of that cause, then you know dependent origination. Even if you don't know the details of dependent origination, if you know that there are causes and results of those causes, and that they are related as cause and effect, you are said to virtually have knowledge of dependent origination. In brief, dependent origination teaches that the material and mental states in beings always arise dependent on origination. According to this teaching, everything in the world is a condition. So if you know only that there are conditions and that there are those conditions by those conditions, it is enough to say that you virtually understand dependent origination. This information is from the text commentaries and sub-commentaries. Okay, we continue tomorrow. We have to stop our discourse for today. May you be able to note the 5 aggregates of grasping. Whenever they arise at the sixth sense door, may you realize their impermanence, suffering, and not self-nature. May you make swift progress in your insight and realize Nibbana, the error or sufferings. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.